Okay, today on the 1 hour chart, we can clearly see that it is beginning to drop, and we've had a downturn for the last, looks like 6-7 days. All right, so this is obviously not a trade that I would be making, but according to the 1 hour chart, we want to be in a short, and these are the points, the extreme points. So as we zoom in, we'll squeeze down that trade. All right, 15-minute chart. Still looking at a pretty decent size there. So let me go back and look one more time. So the MACD is starting to drop. The RSI is clearly losing a lot of momentum. So the 5-minute chart, this is a better position here. It's still a huge trade. And the MACD is starting to tip up just a little. It's weak, but it's tipping up. And you can see the RSI is losing momentum. It's offsetting that. All right, so when we get into the 1-minute chart, we can see that it's possible that it will jump up here, but it is at a kind of a resistance level right through here. So we want to be very careful getting in here. I haven't actually filled yet, but I have placed the order, and I've got a $200 stop, which is reasonable. This is a huge trade. Again, probably will be lifting that up to get out if it drops. Because I doubt that it will make that all in one move. All right, it filled me, and my stop is now lowered a little bit, I think, if I'm not mistaken. This is the 5-minute chart, and that's the only concerning information right through here, but everything else looks really good. So I raised up my limit to match the SMA here on the 5-minute chart. I think that's a better exit place. Let's see, and we're talking 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's still a pretty big trade. 1, 2, 3, and $350. So we'll see. And I like where my stop is. It's right above the peak that it made, this candle here, and it's in a profitable position. It's looking good. And as it dropped, I locked in some profit, so I'm going to be stopped out at about a $50 profit at the very least. All right, and then I lowered the stop again. I'm just being really, really cautious here. This is my first trade. I locked in $100 and it stopped out. And you can see this is kind of another place where it hesitated, and it is the bottom of these candles over here. So not surprising that it did that. I still think it's going to be dropping, but we shall see. So at any rate, the first trade was profitable, but a small. Okay, and here I decided to get in again, and I think I'm going to hope that it gets up to that SMA again, keeps bouncing off of it, so I think it's likely to. So I put my entry order there. My stop is up here at almost the same place it was before. It is at least above the SMA, and here is the exit order. This is a much more reasonable place, and you can see that's kind of where the bottoms of these candles here, the bodies of the candles are. So I think this is a very good trade setup, very likely. Haven't gotten filled yet. This is the 5-minute chart again, and I'm just kind of looking at possible places it might also bounce. And here is an alert set at that SMA, so I can keep track of it on all the charts. And it is a little bit higher than where I have my limit order. All right, now I'm filled. I did have to lower my entry order just a little bit because it just didn't. You can see this last candle right through here, it didn't quite get up to the SMA, and then it really started to show signs of it dropping. All right, so I'm in a short, and I have a really tight stop right through here. It's just less than 100, so I will maybe lose everything that I made on that first trade, but not more than that, so that's decent. And still think it's probably going to hit that and find resistance. And I believe it did. Started to drop, I think is what's happening here. Let me go back and look. Yeah. Okay, I think what I did here, it started to show signs of it going up, so I got a little bit worried and decided that I needed to maybe ask for a little bit less of this trade. So I raised up my limit to get out at a very, very small profit, and I brought my stop down to break even, and I think it got stopped out. So basically on that second trade, I was break even. All right, and I don't regret that at all. I do think that it is gaining a little bit of momentum here. I'm uncomfortable being in a short right now, so I'm waiting for that to fill out, fulfill its mission here and finish what it's doing. Meanwhile, I went back out to the 15-minute chart just to get some perspective. Looks like the MACD is still dropping. Everything's still looking really good for a drop. I really think it's going to get all the way down close to this last low that it formed, but it may take that in a few jogs, which are going to be too big for me to trade. So I'm going to be very careful how I do this. All right, 5-minute chart. The MACD kind of leveled out, but it's really low still. So I don't know that I put a whole lot of weight on that. Sometimes when it's below the average line, it doesn't necessarily want to go up to the average line. It's discouraged, and so it wants to drop some more. It's kind of the mentality that I feel in the people that are trading. That's kind of how I read that. So the lower it is, the more likely it is to drop in a way. All right, so the likelihood of it bouncing up is there. I think this is an unreasonable expectation of it jumping up to that point. I really don't see that happening. Though it is forming a green candle and retesting some of this area. Okay, and it's still retesting it, and we'll see how that MACD pushes it up, how far it gets up there. All right, it's 9:15, and I went back while I was still waiting for this move to finish here, and was kind of looking at the volume profiles, and it was really interesting to see. I put it at 5 o'clock to current, and the POC is way up here. And then by 7 o'clock, the POC jumped down to here. So that's a pretty big jump. So that's kind of right where it's at, actually. There's a ton of orders going in right here. So how to read that, I'm not absolutely certain, but we are getting a lot of attention right through here. All right, 5-minute chart. What's it doing? I had considered, and I can't remember if I actually did this or not, but I was thinking, okay, it looks like perhaps it's starting to head up. And that's a pretty decent trade. I could actually trade on that. That's big enough. And that's a pretty decent place for a stop as well. So I thought, well, I think a buy order might actually not be all bad. And you can see it's kind of stuck in this one little area right through here, right on that gold SMA on the 1-minute chart here. So the likelihood of it jumping up and maybe not reaching or surpassing the last high here, but going up at any rate a certain amount, enough for me to trade on, I think is a very good possibility. So I placed that order, chased it a little bit as it started to gain momentum. It took me a while to decide to do that, and and as the candles are forming, it's getting more and more confidence, and I'm thinking, oh, I should have just believed in myself a little bit more. But anyway, it did drop back down, and then at that point I got in. All right, so this is not a great setup for one, it's not a 1 to 2, it's barely a 1 to 1 trade, and it is a little tenuous. So this is a place where I would actually be losing more than I've made this morning. It's not horrible. I still think the likelihood of it going up is pretty decent. But I'm a little bit worried, kind of questioning whether this was a good idea. Went back out to the 5-minute chart, and MACD is just now touching. I could definitely see it getting up there, and the SMA is dropping as we speak, so I think that needs to be lowered a little. All right, this is 5-minute chart. I think I adjusted it just a little bit. No, yeah. Okay, so I put my limit down on that SMA there. All right. And the other thing to consider is it's 30 seconds to the opening bell right now. So this is not looking very good, actually. So I very quickly, what did I do? I think I raised up my stop to very, very small loss, if I remember right, just at the last second, and it got stopped out. So let's go back and look. Yeah, I think I lost about 100 on that. So basically, I haven't made anything for the day. I've lost actually a tiny little bit, like 40 bucks. So again, this is one of those days where I've made a number of trades and it's been kind of break even. I haven't really gained anything that I haven't lost in the next trade. So it's like I'm struggling to gain a profit, but I'm not losing anything, so I would say I'm not doing terribly bad on trading either. So okay, this is 1 minute after the opening bell, and it is forming a very steep drop, which is originally what I thought was going to happen. So I jumped into a short here, and this is a huge trade with a pretty good size stop right there. But I think that with this kind of speed, I think this is what's needed. All right, and as it dropped, I locked in zero loss here and raised up my limit to get out at a really good place here and made 200. So here's the list of all my trades. Let's see, yeah, actually they're not quite in order. This is my first, this is my second, third, fourth, fifth. Okay, so now I'm actually in a profit level here. All right, and decided to make another one. Got into a short after this red candle. Unfortunately, it kind of didn't. Let's see, I can't remember how this all happened so fast. I still think it's dropping, so I got into a short. My stop is pretty decent here. And I think I'm getting worried about this trade that it's going to be dropping. So I have a very small profit level here. And then it dropped down. You can see just in the movement there how fast this is moving. I actually did make a profit on that one. Very small profit. But at least it was. All right. And as it continues to drop, it goes up and retests, but doesn't get up very far. All right. So again, this is another trade I'm making. It's a little bit careless, honestly. I still think it's going to get down to this level right through here. And I, at some point, grabbed a screenshot of the longer term trades to show you why I decided it was there, that it was going to. And I kept wanting to get the rest of that move that I thought it was making, which was, in hindsight, kind of a mistake, because when I make my trades, I like to trade the first part of the move. And when it gets down to the end of the move, it slows down and it just gets real hairy. I don't like to do it. And so I shouldn't have done this. This is way too much risk here on the table. But because the momentum is still making it drop, I am lucking out. I dropped my stop down to break even and got stopped out again. So I think I made like 12 bucks on that one. So I kind of lucked out, and at this point I kind of decided, I think maybe I should be done. I don't know. And I did. So I ended at 344 profit. And you can see, here's my trades. I only made one negative trade. And I made two that were break even, one that was really small. That was nice. So that's that.